Welcome back. Next, we're going to add the navbar that sits at the top no matter which route we're on. So to begin, I'm going to make a separate navbar component, navbar.js, and then I'll define it. And this is just me being picky. I like to export at the bottom. There we go. And in here, I'll begin by giving my div a class name of navbar. And we could just use links. We'd have to import from React Router DOM. We could use the same component link, but that doesn't allow us to easily display which link is active. So we use navlink, as we've seen before. So we're going to import navlink. Make sure you get the capital L from React Router DOM. Now we have navlink. We're going to specify 2. So let's start with 2/, which is our root route. And then we'll close our navlink. And this first one will just be home. And then we'll duplicate them a couple times. Next up, we're going to do, let's do chips/chips. And then after that, we'll do sardine, and now let's do soda. It really doesn't matter. I don't know why I just changed it. And then sardines. Okay, so we have our 4 links. Just make sure we're not getting any errors. We're not seeing anything yet because, for one thing, we're not actually rendering the component navbar. So let's go to our app.js and import navbar from /navbar. And then we'll add one in, but we want to do it above that switch. Well, if we want it to be at the top. And I do want it at the top. So navbar, just like that. Okay, so it's very hard to see, but my links are right there. So let's see if the links are working. Sardines takes me to sardines. Well, I can't see anything. Chips takes me to chips. And then soda, come on, takes me to soda. And home takes me home. Okay, so I'm going to add some quick styles. In my navbar.js, I'm going to import a file that doesn't exist yet. Import ./navbar.css. And then I'm going to make a file called navbar.css. And I'll begin by giving my navbar some styles. Here we go. So I'm giving it some padding, background color, width 100%, justify content, space around. So my links should, see, why is that background? Oh, I didn't save this file. There we go. Okay, so space around is going to divide that space between the items in the navbar. You could play around with that. You could switch it to center, and they'll all be grouped in the middle, but then you would have to give each link some padding. So we would do navbar anchor tag. Those are anchor tags in there. And we could say margin 2 rems. It's going to make them quite tall, but we could just do margin left and right. But instead, I'm going to do space around. It's good enough for now. Okay, so our navbar is working. There we go. Looks okay enough. Nothing to write home about. But we're not getting those active styles. So let's define a class to start. Let's do navbar-active, and that should be applied to whichever link we're currently visiting, whichever route corresponds to these links. And actually, I changed my mind a little bit. I'm going to style the links as they are without the active class first. I just made them a little bit lighter. So now when they're active, I can give them color of white. But we haven't actually added the code to make them active. So let's do that now. Let's go over to navbar.js, and to each one of these nav links, let's do active class name equals, and then we called it navbar-active. It just needs to match whatever we defined over here, navbar-active. And we probably will run into some specificity issues. So right now, none of them are active. They still work, but they're not showing up with our styles. And if we inspected, I believe we would see which one. We're on chips right now. So chips does have navbar-active, but my color white is being crossed out because we have some specificity conflicts. You can see here we have a class and an additional element selector. So that gets more specificity points. Compared to this, navbar-active is a single class. So I'm going to modify it to say a navbar-active or .navbar space navbar-active, or even more specific, anchor tags with Navbar active class inside of the Navbar class. Now, there we go. It's working. Chips is showing up as white. You can see home is now working, but it's not perfect because you'll notice home is also still white. It's showing up as active even though we're on sardines. And that is because we didn't add exact into our nav links. So let's do that now to make sure that they only show up when we're exactly on that route /soda/chips. Otherwise, without it, all of these routes below are going to trigger slash and make this active, even if we're not on the home route. There we go, soda, sardines, chips, and home. Okay, so that's working. We're done with the functionality that I asked you to implement. The last thing we'll talk about in the next video is something new you haven't seen. We're going to create a component that actually wraps around other components. So we have a lot of text, like this text over here, this text, here, here. And if I wanted to apply some styles to all of them, sort of make them look the same, I'm going to use something called props.children to help me do that. And I'm going to wrap all of these pieces of text in a new component. So we'll get to that in the next video. It's a new topic. I recommend you watch it.